Oh, that's normal.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
But
Anxiety.
now she's like normal with that.
Yes.
Walking, she's actually not as bad as I thought she would be.
Okay.
She like, when I like tell her to break, so like she's in the bathroom, she constantly looks at my shoulder, but I think I'm cool.
To look at, to check on you mean? Like
No,
check.
to check if there are like other people.
Oh yeah, because I mean she has to adapt to this type of environment. So I would say that's normal for now. I'd keep an eye on it. I wouldn't remote her for it because she's most likely going to default come to you, and it's really just getting her comfortable with this environment which you live here now. So hopefully it should happen. Okay.
The only, when she's in her crate, if I leave, she's fine. The only thing that I have an issue with is what I do not hear from. Is like if she hears my neighbor going into their apartment, she'll like run.
Yeah. How long? This is when you're gone or when you're present or both?
I don't know. I haven't turned on the video camera yet. I've only left for like 15, 20 minutes at a time so far.
Is that because of her, or is that just because?
Yeah, because I feel like, I guess.
Why?
I don't know. I know.
Okay, so well, what I would suggest is one, if you don't want, because are you in a apartment building now, condo building? Yeah. Is I would let your neighbors know. Just say, hey, I'm new to the building. I have a dog. Please let me know. She's completely not used to this type of environment. If you hear barking, please let me know. Right. The reason why I say that is in case there is, you're already a step ahead, and they're not going to go to the building. Right. They'll come to you first. And then typically, since you were proactive about it, people are nicer about it. They're like, oh, we understand, we get it, right? So that works in your favor, and then also it helps you just kind of figure out, do I need to get a bark collar for her? And I would say just, live your life.
I know.
Now you're over here. There's so
I know,
much to do
I
in
know,
this
I know.
area. The looking around, not a common, especially for her personality type. Whether or not she gets over it depends. I'm gonna lean more towards yes. I worked with a dog before that was so neurotic that he was from Iowa, he's a border collie, and from like 30 feet away, he was already scared of people. Yeah, it was really bad. And he had constant diarrhea because he was constantly under stress. It was not fun to clean up. And I had to find, and I lived in the South Loop at the time, so it was super busy. So when I would try to take him out the potty, he would just be whipping around all over the place because there was cars, there was people and stuff. But I found like a little cove that was bushes, and there was nothing on the opposite side because there was like a metro station, so it was fenced off. And I used to take him there, and that's where he would pee and poo. So if obviously you're not to that degree, but that dog actually even got better to the point where he could go pee and poo. He was still a little nervous, so he was way worse than her. So I suspect that she will recover and not be so wary. But I would not remote it for that. Okay. Elevator stuff.
She's fine. She'll go into I go bring her to the left corner. She'll sit.
Okay.
I mean, so knock on wood. I know it's only been like a week, so.
Have you seen any dogs?
Yeah. So we've been in an elevator with a dog. I think she's so nervous right now that she like blacks out. So I know I'm like just kind of
Anticipating? Yes.
But I'm hoping, but I'm at the same time I'm like always.
Yes. So I would say you're completely correct. I've had dogs that were reactive, and then the owner moves, and then the dog is quiet. And they're like, oh, Jesse, like, we moved and it fixed the problem. And then a month later, the dog reacted. I was like, no, the dog's just not comfortable reacting. So I would give another 2 weeks to 4 weeks before you start to see Xyla start to show her true colors in this environment. But you're already a step ahead because of the equipment and everything that you can do. Okay? What I would do is when you're on the elevator, you do the sit like you have been doing. She's on the corner. You shorten your leash, of course, and then you can always preemptively bump your button. So if it's the typical numbers from 50, I might be like at 75, 80. Anticipating something might happen, but you're still relaxed. Like you're set up, but I don't want you to be like anticipating like this. Okay, that's one thing. When you're like this, you're gonna feed tension. But if you're nice and relaxed, she doesn't know what the number's on, right? That you're already ready in case something happens, and if it doesn't, just remember to dip it down, and then, okay? Anything else?
Oh, so like, How hard am I supposed to be hitting her with a bonker?
Did you watch the
Yeah.
third? Yeah.
So like that
Pretty
hard?
free. Yeah, pretty free. Yeah. It's got to mean something, right? And it depends on the dog. Like my chow mix was super soft. That like even if I just went like, boop, she'd be like, she'd just jump up, right? So that little boop was like 10 to her. So that's what I would use,
But
right?
actually get like a really startled reaction.
Correct. You should see a shift, right? So if she's like tense, like what's going on outside, and you bop her or bonk her or whatever, and then she's still tense, clearly it was not enough, right? And you got to remember, dogs bite each other, right? Like this is easier because it's really just scalable, and it creates a disconnect of the physicality, right? But with the bonker, obviously, it has to come through you, and that's where people struggle. So it's perfectly normal. That's why I like that video, because I'm like, here's an example. And they're like, oh my God, is that fur? I'm like, yes, it's a towel. You know, I got whooped with the belt. You know, but if you do a light little, you know, let's say a 3 out of 10, and it stopped the behavior, then I would say 3 out of 10 worked. But then you want to think long term, right? So let's say 3 out of 10 worked for that moment, but she continues to do the behavior throughout the day. And you're constantly having to do that 3. Well, then clearly it's not syncing, like for the long term. So then I jump it, maybe I do 5 out of 10. And then it's better, it's every other day, but it's still every other day. Then I go to 7 out of 10. You know, I'm adjusting the scale according to her response. And then maybe, you know, you give her a really solid 10 one day, and then she stops the behavior for 3 weeks. You go, oh, okay, she needs 10 out of 10. Right? So, it's not going to ruin your relationship with her. It's not going to make her hate you. It's not going to make her go to her little kennel and like think like mom's so mean. If you see wariness or caution of you, it's normal because there is physicality involved. But it's not. I always tell people you want to see that stuff because that's what gets the dog to change things. Because it's when you're present, right? So like when you're gone and she hears a neighbor going in the door, I would imagine she would bark. She's alone. Technically, in the hierarchy of things, she's in charge because she's the only one home. That's her job. You're not going to get a permanent zero bark dog, right? But most people understand, like, yeah, you know, when I walk to my door, my neighbor's dog barks, and then once I'm inside the house, shuts up. Like, they understand it's just an alert dog, right? But if it starts barking and it continues to bark, that's a different problem, you know. So when you're home, the barking, in my opinion, should only really happen when it means something, in the sense of like, let's say someone knocks on your door, that directly deals with you and your home. The dog barks, we want to shut it down, but we don't want to eliminate it because of security, right? But if it's just your neighbors walking up and down the hall, a dog walking down the hall, somebody opening their door, somebody going to throw away the garbage, like that stuff, like you recognize it because you're like, oh, she's a neighbor, but she's hyper. So once you correct all those things, she'll learn to ignore those things, but she'll still bark for other things. So you don't just feel screwed. Okay? Anything else? Excuse me. Anything in particular you want to work on today?
No, not really.
So we've covered heel, we covered stay, we covered place, we did recall. Were you able to practice recall?
So it's hard because when I'm like at the park, I'm trying to like get her to go wander.
Sure.
And I haven't had anybody time to have her come help me. She doesn't wander around.
Right. She stays with by you. Correct.
Still scared, so I haven't really been able to practice that much with it. I hope today she like saw squirrels and started to chase them, so I'm hoping maybe she's starting to like loosen up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I'll be able to practice it a little bit more.
Sure. So what I would do is have your long leash, go to lakefront, whatever, there's tons of open space there. Hop on the long leash, hold on to the handle, and just walk. Tell her break and just walk. Okay? And don't worry about getting her to leave your side. Just walk in the open, like if it was a nice open space like this, I'd just go, right? And you make that your walk. So you're not doing your heel, but you heeled on the way there, right? And you do that every day. Eventually, she should start just drifting off. So now, partly because of her personality type, and partly because of the e-collar, she's going to stay close to you. Is you have to build comfort of leaving me alone. Like go do you can do your doggy thing. So I would get the comfort first. Once you get the comfort, don't start doing recall right away. Keep repeating until it feels kind of like she doesn't even care anymore, right? And you tell her break, and she's like, all right, and she just goes, right? Then I go, cool. We'll do a few more, and then I start doing recall like at the very end, okay? And because you're trying to create a balance. If you introduce it too soon, when she just starts to get away from you, you're gonna break that comfort factor, and she's not gonna want to leave your side. Okay, and it's partially just because she's a nervous, anxious dog, but partially because of the remote. Okay, so and if you do this 3 times a day, if possible, because you said you're Clark University. Yeah, because there's an open field just east of you. Yeah. Have you been there yet? Yeah. Have you seen it? Okay, cool. Yeah, so you have easy access to that, right? So if I have, let's say it takes me 5 minutes to get there, I walk there, I spend 20 minutes meandering and then 5 minutes back, and I do that 3 times a day over the course of days, you should get there really quick, okay? If you have someone to help you, of course, you can always force that disconnect. But that comfort aspect of getting her to be on her own is going to take time to do it. So, yeah, okay? Anything else?
No, I was just saying I like that idea.
Okay. Yeah, I've done it before with other dogs that if they did too much recall, they wanted the owner. So I told them, and that area east of you, once the squirrels come out, unless they're on social distancing the guidelines too, that area is tons of squirrels. Squirrels, geese, occasional rabbits. You'll see a raccoon every now and then. There's also coyote from time to time. I actually saw a coyote in that exact spot where you were during the training session. Yeah, so they're rare, but they do pop out. So, great place to practice. Did we ever go over formal sits? Like actually saying the word sit? Okay, it's more so just like the implied, the auto sits and stuff like that. So I think the last 2 obedience things that you need are the sit and down, and I think we covered everything else, and the rest was like behavioral stuff, right? Because we had the reactivity. Have you seen any reactivity since you moved here? Have you walked past dogs in close proximity? Okay. Are you walking past them, or are you stepping aside and letting them go? Walking past. And what's her body language like? She doesn't even look. Okay.
She hasn't.
Sure. So every time you pass by a dog, I just want you, for now, just to look at her, to see what her body language is. Because in a couple, 2 to 4 weeks, you might see a shift. And if you're watching her, like let's say in 2 weeks, you start to notice her ears perking up, which wasn't happening before, yeah. So you don't even ideally see the reactivity, the prop it's head on. But good. And then the next thing was like, I think people coming into the home, right? Yeah. Did I?
Which I know might not be.
Right. But I have a video that we actually did with another client just before all this happened. I can send that to you. And Maria told you about the Zoom sessions? Yeah, so you have 2 complimentary Zoom sessions that we just added in to help people. So what I would do is, if you're planning on having guests come over in the future, even if it's like your mom and stuff, you can use that to your advantage so that when you actually have guests come over, like a friend that maybe she hasn't met before, you have a foundation down, okay? So I'd send you the video so you can watch it, and then we can do a Zoom so I can tie up any loose ends that you may have picked up, and then you would just apply it like when your mom came. Because so instead of mom just walking in or anything, she would come and knock like anybody else would. She doesn't know who's knocking. You would do the exercise, and then when she recognizes your mom, I'm assuming she'd be happy. Yep. It's actually going to be harder, okay? In the sense that she's going to be excited, right? So if you can get her to dial down and follow the exercise how I'm going to describe it to you, then when you get to an actual person that she doesn't know, it should be easier, okay? Because when dogs really know someone and are excited and love them, that's like the hardest thing to get them to calm down. So if you can calm that down, calming territorial behavior should be easier, okay? Anything else? Does she know down from previous training at all?
Yeah. She does it occasionally.
If you say it,
There's a tree.
there's a tree. Okay. So she doesn't know the word down at all.
I mean, I say down. I don't know if she associates it.
Sure. Can I see what you do?
Sit. Down.
Yes.
Okay. Down. Usually down.
Does she have allergies? So a client gifted us with these. There's a couple in here. They're organic peanut butter. I didn't really eat it. I tasted it. I don't know how dogs eat these things.
Right here. Yeah. I love you. Down.
Yeah, she's stressed. Okay, so you're welcome to take it. So we're gonna teach her a formal down and sit collar. Okay. So it helps that she is familiar with it, but like right now she's either because of the environment or doesn't have a full concept without, like you said, without the word that she's not wanting to do these. Okay. Which number set up right now? So let's go ahead and go down to 30.
Yeah, I've been up pretty high.
What was it at up in Rosen?
35, 40.
35, 40? Yeah, that's a big difference. That makes sense. Your number may dip over time. What I'm going to have you do here is have you ever used a leash to get her to lay down before by stepping on it? Alright. So you're going to let your let the left hand go, right? And okay. Take a little bit. We want to see a little bit of a loop like that, right? And with your right foot, you're going to step on that little loop there, right? And going with your left hand, you're going to start to pull up this way. Yeah, and it should feed a leash through, right? And you should feel like a little bit of tension on the back of her neck. Do you feel anything there?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to have you go ahead and pull up a little bit more, so you're stepping kind of like right in the middle of those two, where it's, yeah, like that. That's good. And you're going to put your foot down all the way. Good, and tap. 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 Try pulling the leash up a bit more. Tap. 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 And praise. Right? We're going to keep it right there for a second. So what helped you out here is the fact that she actually already knew down. Okay? So I use that to our advantage, because if she hadn't, it would have been a lot more physical tension and a lot more bucking around. Okay? So here, what you're doing is teaching her another way to release, to relinquish pressure, right? Because she knows if she's on your side, it stops. If she doesn't move, it stops. If she puts her butt down, it stops. If she comes to you, it stops, right? So this is another answer for her in terms of what caused e-collar to go away. Okay? So I'm not worried about the down cue right now. So similar to like the auto sits where you would lightly pull up and you would tap until her butt went down, for the down, it's the opposite way. Okay? So we're shaping the behavior using pressure. Once we get a much easier response and you're not having to put so much tension, and we can get at the press of a button, then we're going to start layering in the word. Okay? When we do this type of down, this is a much more meaningful down.
No way.
So typically when people use it with food, the dog will pop right up. Right? Like, I got what I wanted, I'm done. Down is functional obedience. So if I told one of my dogs to lay down, they would lay down until I released them. 2 hours, 6 hours, 30 minutes, like it's meant for actual application. Okay? So, like the place command, which is meant for extended time, that's more lenient. You can sit down, you can lay down, you can stand up, I don't care. This is much more specific. This is down, there's no sitting up, there's no standing up, only this, okay? I personally don't care about aesthetic. I don't need a very pretty looking down on a dog like this. What I want is function. So like let's say she lays down but she goes on her back with her paws up, but she'll hold that for 2 hours. I don't care, okay? Because I care about the function aspect of it. Question so far? I'm gonna go ahead and have you say the word break, and you're gonna circle around, and you're gonna repeat that process, and we're gonna try to get it so that ideally with one tap, she'll just start to go into position. Okay?
Great. Circle around her.
Yep. Or have her circle around. Yeah, just to reset her and move her brain a little bit. Yep. And then you can stand next to her. Yep. Good. Yep. 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 Try putting a little bit more pressure on the leash. Yep. 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 Pull up the leash a bit more. Yep. 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 What I'm gonna have you do is, what's your number right now? Let's go 35. Yep. Almost. Yep. Almost. Yep. 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 Go to 40. Yep. Yep. And praise. Good. Break and reset.
Break.
There you go, good girl.
Well, I mean, honestly, that's it.
Up into the sit.
Like, I think you guys can do
Okay, there we go, good girl. And praise. Good. Break. 2 more.
Break.
Good girl. Last one. Break. Go, Xyla. Hello, girl. Right. So now she starts to lay down, right? So what we're gonna do here, so this is not a bad thing because she's starting to get it, right? Is I'm gonna have you lightly pull up on your leash and tap. And you're gonna relax for a moment. So the reason why we're not saying words right now is I don't want her to think words. I want her to just think positions. Okay. So if she prematurely lays down and you're trying to practice with her, that defeats the purpose because you're trying to do it when you cue it, right? So then we just lightly pull up, give a tap. She corrects. We wait a moment, and now you're gonna go ahead and relax your leash, put some tension on it with your foot. Yep. Right there. And breaks. Was that 1 tap or 2? 1. Excellent. And you're at 50 or 40? 40. Good. So, you see how it progressively got easier, right? Now, just so you know, a lot of trainers will say, don't teach down from sit. Okay? It's a big no-no in the dog training world. Okay? I don't care about the rules, because in real life, with people, it doesn't matter. It's easier to teach you down from a sitting position, this with remote collar, than it is from standing position. Okay? So, just in case people ever say anything to you. So, now we've created like a fluency, right? Where it was just one tap and she sort of goes straight into the down. So we're gonna do another 5, but we're gonna change things up a bit. You're not gonna put as much tension going down. So when you put your foot, you're gonna lightly kind of just rest it to where you feel tension, but not a lot, right? And then you're gonna give that tap to see if she'll go into it with just that subtle amount of pressure. We're gonna do that a few times, and then if she gets that really well, then we're gonna start adding in the work. Okay, questions? Right. Ready? Yeah. Right there, good. And praise, atta girl. Try walking one way to see if she'll walk forward. There she goes, good. And a girl. Good, 3 more. There she goes, the girl. Try increasing your power a little bit. Yeah, the girl. Good, 2 more.
Break.
Good. 1 more.
Break.
Very good. We'll give her a second to kind of process all that, and now what we're going to do is the same exact thing, except before you go to put your foot down, you're going to cue the word down first, okay? And then you're going to start tapping. If she doesn't respond or looks confused, and then as you're tapping, you're then going to add in the leash pressure after the tap. Okay, so we're switching up the order, so it's going to be the word first, immediately followed by tapping. If she doesn't respond within 3 to 4 taps, as I'm tapping, I'm going to then incorporate putting my foot on the leash. So we're trying to get it so when you say down, she responds to the word. If you say down and follow up with the leash pressure, she's going to become really reliant on the leash pressure, and we're trying to make it more towards the verbal cue. Okay? Whenever you're ready, break.
Break. Down. Break.
Good. 1 more. Try going one direction. There you go. Tap. There you go. Good.
Down.
Yep. There you go. This next one, don't even step on the leash.
Break.
Girl.
Down.
Yep. Yep. And a girl. And praise. Good job, Xyla. Girl. Break.
Break. Down.
Good girl. Last one.
Break.
Try down from there.
Down.
Yep. And go. Good. We're gonna pause for a second. Very good. So you see how quick that was? Right. So the previous training absolutely did help because she was already familiar with the position. Okay. which makes our lives easier. So then we just have to transfer that towards the remote. Okay? Do you know how you would apply this? So, and this is a very common thing.
Somebody coming in?
Technically you could, and there's a whole thing behind that, right? And when we talk about that, I'll go over that with you. But a lot of people, when they teach a dog obedience, they don't transfer how it applies to life, right? So it's something like this. You have two aspects of it, right? There's just the functional aspect of it, of like maybe you just want to come here on a nice day and read, or come out and just like keep watching something and bring Xyla with you. But then you don't want to have Xyla doing all this stuff, right? So that you can cue it down. So like for instance, if you sit on that bench, I have Xyla at my feet, I say down, she does so, and I step on the leash in the beginning, and I keep it short. Like if you were to put your foot right now, right there, that limits her range of motion. Or so if she starts to move, you're gonna feel it, which then gets your attention of what you do, right? So then you correctly feed it. And you're getting what we call durational work, right? Like I said, 2 hours, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 6 hours, whatever you need your dog to move for is what you want to build to, and whatever seems applicable to you is what you would aim for. Okay, everybody is different. Let's say you're going to go to a friend's house and you want to bring Xyla, but then it turns out it's a bit busier than you anticipated, and you don't have a place for her in terms of like a mat or something. And then the easiest is you just have her at your feet and keep that. So then you don't have to worry about her being all over the place. How is Xyla when she goes to the veterinarian? She's scared. She's anxious. Yeah, this is very common. Okay? Even for dogs that are stable, when they go to vet clinics, they tend to get really anxious. Kind of like some people get anxious going to their dentist, So, in that sense, if I go into that setting, check in and they sit down, if there's no direction, the dog is panting, they're kind of moving around and shuffling because they don't know what to do. Like this. You're giving her direction, right? And you're saying, I know you're anxious, but right now your job is just to lay down and relax, okay? So, dogs get anxiety when they don't know what to do, okay? So then you give direction. So I really don't care about the fact of the obedience. I care about the direction it gives the dog in a setting where they feel unsure, right? Let's say, I have a dog who is scared of bikes, right? And I know there's a path where there's a lot of bikes to go through. I would take my dog, sit on the bench, down them, have my leash short just in case, and let bikes go by, right? So now, what happens is the dog has to worry more about the positioning because of consequence, and it has to accept bikes happening, right? But then eventually, that's not so bad. Kind of like with Xyla, in the beginning, with people moving around, when she would shuffle, we had to lock her up physically so that her brain wasn't allowed to practice all this movement and shuffling to get her over that stuff, right? So then, so much like the stay command, where I was like, pick a busy corner, stay, make her stay away from you, I don't care about the stay function. I care about how it helps Xyla learn to deal with these things that she doesn't like. Okay? So, there's two functions for you. There's the control, we just want to have a nice day and I don't want to have to worry about what she's doing. And then there's the, we're in a setting where she's uncomfortable and she's shuffling around a lot. So when we do behavior work, we're almost always going opposite to the dog. So in her case, she moves around a lot. So to help her deal with things, keep her stationary. In some cases, dogs will lock up and they won't move. So if I put them in a group of dogs, they'll just sit in one spot and the dogs walk around and won't do anything. So for them, I make them move. Okay? So we're almost always going opposite to what the dog's response is. Okay? And in terms of duration, you can start doing a long period of time right off the bat. She's already been here for 5 minutes, right? So with food stuff, because there's no aversion, the dog just gets to treat and pop up okay, no big deal, right? But here, as soon as you start putting pressure behind things, we're already getting, duration. And then you just think to yourself, what's the longest I would need Xyla to hold this for? And if it's an hour and a half, then in the home, because it's not as distracting, you want to practice about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. You're kind of going overboard a bit. So that when you apply it in the setting that you need it, which is busier, you're not going to get 2.5 hours, but you've pushed more, so when you get to that setting, it's actually easier to do that 1.5 hour. Does that make sense? And you can do this when you're watching a movie, watching Netflix, doing computer work, or studying from home, things like that. Just collar her up, leash her up at this stage. Have her by command down. She lays down, I step on the leash, I do what I'm going to do for whatever you're telling me to do. Okay? In the beginning, if you just get up and walk away, what do you think Xyla would do? Yes, right? Because her instinct is to just go with you. So at this stage, what I do is before I get up, I just go break, and then I get up and do what I need to do, and come back and reposition the dog. That's the easiest for now. Okay, let's say you do that every day for the week. Then by the next week, since she's got a constant of, I lay down and I don't move for time, then I make it harder by, okay, you've been laying down for 30 minutes, now I'm gonna get up, but you're not gonna, right? But in that first week, since you've done a lot of corrections, should she try to follow, when you go to tap her, she should just go to lay down.
So I don't say the word, I just check out.
Correct. Yeah, we never repeat the command. You would want her to respond to the remote, right? So I'm sitting down, 30 minutes goes by, I just get up, but I bring my remote, anticipating she's gonna wanna follow. The moment you move and you see Xyla move to follow, you would freeze, start tapping, see what she does. Okay? She goes to lay down, perfect. I continue going. She tries to get up, I turn to face her, start tapping, she lays down, I go back to what I'm going to do. Okay? You have to stop it as soon as you see that's the easiest. Let's say you're tapping her, but she's not getting it. She doesn't know what to do. Then I step on that leash. Give her a little bit of aid, but I don't repeat the word. Okay? I want her as much as possible to figure it out with the remote, because in the long run, let's say Xyla were to be 20 feet away from you, and then you start to see her move and you tap her, she just should go back into position and not move to you. Okay, but it takes going through this process. Okay, so then let's say you do that for a week, and she gets really good at it. Then you work towards, okay, lay down, but be away from you. Right, so she might be 3 to 5 feet from you, and you're up and you're moving, maybe you're cleaning, she needs a vacuum cleaner or something like that, and start vacuuming. Maybe she tries to run away and you start promoting her to make her hold, keep that position, and really push her behavior. And then once you get that done, then you go even further, right? Like she's across the room for you or even in a different room, and that's if it's applicable to you, okay? Everybody's level of control is different. The most common one is really just down in the feet. Because they usually when they go to patios, restaurant patios, things like that, that the dog's not really good. Okay? Questions about any of that stuff. So that's been about 10 minutes, and she's not gone. Okay? So it should be that simple. So you're going to have 2 things to work on here. One is this part, the down, tap, to position. What I would suggest is 2 times a day, 3 times a day, do 5 reps, like we did here. I had to do 5, then 5, then 5. Okay, so I would do 5 of just the very light pressure, and then once you get that down, then do down, tap, right? 5 of those, and then you're done. Okay, so that's to create ease of response. So eventually, if you feel like she's really getting it, you skip that first part, and then you just jump into down, tap, right? She does it. Once she's mastered that, you don't need to do that anymore, because that's its sole purpose, is just to be able to get you to say down and her to lay down, no problem. The next half of it is duration work, okay? And that's a separate exercise. And don't feel like you have to isolate them, like you don't do one day and then one the other day. You can do them both, okay? So let's say you do your reps and then you leave her alone, then 2 hours later you're like, I'm gonna watch a movie, call her back up again, down, tap tap, step on your leash, watch a movie, break when you're done, and then whatever, okay? If you do this every day, you're gonna make very good progress. If you do this every other day, that's so hard, right? This is super easy for people to do, but it's like one of the things that people don't do. Okay, so for you, I would recommend that you do so that when you take her to, because she's going to go to a different vet now. Probably, yeah. So it might be even more stressful. So you're going to want to have that direction, Plus, if she's more under stress, she's not going to respond as smoothly, I would think. So you're going to have to work through that as well. I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else that you can apply it. Any other settings that she gets stressed out at? What about in the car? Is she okay in the car? She's fine? Yeah, then maybe it's just a vet clinic. But as things start to go back to normal, you know, and you want to maybe you want to take her out to a patio with you while you eat brunch or something, I think she's more than capable of it. Okay? You made a lot of progress. And like here, if you look at her face, her positioning is not relaxed, right? You see how she's sitting on her haunches and everything? That is not a relaxed down. Okay? But if you look at her face, she's really relaxed. See that? It's closed mouth, but you know, she's not panting, she's just like chill. Okay, so that's a long way for that's really good. Okay? Anything else? So you have your homework for the week. And then you can set up that Zoom if you're gonna have your mom or anybody come over. So you can start working on that. But that's gonna take time to learn. Yes, and if you don't hear from me, because we have a full day today, shoot me a text or an email, just say, hey, Jesse, can send me that video, and then I'll make sure to email it to you. Set up the Zoom post, you watch the video, which is about an hour long, and then we'll get that taken care of, and then you can start working on just guests come over, things like that. And then you're always more than welcome to save some sessions, like one for coming, actually, if you're struggling with coming over, more than welcome. And then once we start...
Yeah, I was going to ask that, because I feel like part of me is afraid the reactivity might become more relevant as
time goes on.
So I kind of was wondering if I could do that.
Yes.
I can have 6 months. I know I have a lot more.
Yeah. What did you got 12?
And
yeah. I have no problem with it. And you can even do the pack walk. So if you stop, because it's literally we just came from that to
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if that's too much for her because the 2 hours in the sun and she gets really hot.
Well, because we walk, right, and that's temporary. Then we come here, and that's why I like this spot because we're in the shade. So she would have been cooled off. And then the training itself isn't like high activity, so she would have been fine. But in terms of what you may end up needing is possibly for the in-home session with people coming over, and then potentially if she starts to become reactive, become reactive, she'll be a little bit. But if you look at here, she's relaxed. So, yeah, I have no problem with it. Okay, and then anything else? Good. She's looking really good. There you go. If it ends up happening where you use a couple sessions and you still have some want to use that value, we do have our daycare. You can turn it into. We come over here to pick up the other stuff, so you can always use it for that as well. And then she can come over stuff like that. So you have to okay, so you can still get use out of it. Okay. Anything else? Good job. Let me get that. I'll job. Yeah, and think if there's anything that you can think of that you think you may need help with. And I've also done with people who residents. You know, if you feel like it's going to be bad or something like that, you need a place. I've also done that as well. So it's not a big deal. Okay. I think a lot of vets right now is just drop the dog off and wait outside. So, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good job.
See you next